2, 1.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025, and we're calling to order our meeting of the Community Development Committee. Yours truly, Tyrone Johnson, Chair, Councilman Tim Andrew, as well as Councilwoman Vicky McKeever, and we do have Councilwoman Amanda Cook. She is on the way. So we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation of items. It's 2025-225, the consideration of demolition ordinance at 910 Worth Street. So the City Council is requesting to consider an ordinance to demolish the dwelling at 910 Worth Street.
Good evening. Hope
Good evening.
everyone is well. So the property at 910 Worth Street, the complaint and notice of hearing was held on December 23rd, 2023. The order to repair or demolish was issued on December 24th, 2023, with a compliance due date of November 24th, 2023. As of May 23rd, 2025, no repairs have been completed or permits been obtained to repair or demolish the dwelling. I will say we have had one phone conversation with the property owner, and that was in November of 2023, where he stated that he was in the process of selling the property, but as of today, the property has not been sold, and we have not seen any initiative for the property to be sold. This is the site map where it is located. This is the front of the home. I can assure you 100% there is a home right there. It has been overgrown for quite a while. This is the right side of the home, and you can see in this picture here that the front porch roof has caved in. This is the inside of the home. We weren't able to actually go in and take great pictures of the home due to the floor caving in, so we actually went around the home and peeked in the windows and took these pictures. And with this case, I will say we have an active public nuisance case. It has been assigned to a contractor to mow the entire property, to try to pull some of the shrubbery off the house and secure it. That way it's a lot more safe than it is right now. Does anybody have any questions?
Council Manager, is that car, the abandoned car, part of the property? It just happens to be there.
So it is actually a part of the property. You can't see it in this picture. There's about 4 abandoned vehicles out there that we have an active case on and have been sending civil penalties since 2023 as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? And you said you spoke, this is Councilman Johnson, the owner?
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah, Mr. Lucas has not responded to any of the civil penalties we have sent in association, and he has not made any attempts to repair the house, maintain the property, or sell the property since we've had an active minimum housing case.
okay, great, thank you. And thank you all for going out there, and because it doesn't look stable at all. So if you would have went in the house, the floors definitely don't look stable. So if there's no questions. All right, so I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 2025-225.
I'd like to second.
All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We'll move it forward. The next one is 2025-226. Consideration of demolition ordinance at 402 Cable Street. And we will have you tell us a little bit about that. And we also have Councilwoman Amanda Cook is not here with us.
So 402 Cable Street, the complaint and notice of hearing was held on January 6, 2025. No one appeared for this hearing. The order to repair or demolish was issued on January 7, 2025, with a compliance due date of February 7, 2025. As of May 23rd, 2025, no repairs have been completed or permits obtained to repair or demolish the dwelling. I will say that the property owner, Ms. Juanita Totten, she is heir of the property, contacted me today, and she is planning on obtaining a demolition permit tomorrow. With that being said, we have had several conversations with her stating that she was going to come in and obtain a demo permit, but has never followed through. So I wanted you all to be aware of that as well.
So, Mr. Chair, in some cases like this, what's been done in the past is go ahead and proceed with the process, and then if the applicant comes in and gets the demolition permit and makes some visible efforts to remedy, then staff would pull it from the agenda and we wouldn't take it to council. So if that's the will of the committee, we could proceed that way.
Thank you.
And was she aware of the proceedings today?
Yes, ma'am, she is. So this is the site map for the property. This is the front portion of the home. This case was actually initiated by the fire department. The building caught on fire and essentially it was a total loss. This is the interior of the bathroom, and you can see up towards the top where the fire damaged the insulation, the wiring, the sheetrock. This is another example. This is back towards the back of the house, and of course, through the door on the left, you can see the exterior of the property. Another example. This is the back of the home. I will say we have been out and secured that property. The property owner also did mow the property, and we have received several complaints with neighbors in the neighborhood about the condition of the home. We've actually had to go out there a couple times and speak with the residents of the home and inform them they cannot stay there. And I will say, since then, she has been able to find a home and is currently staying somewhere. Does anybody have any questions?
You had the complaint notice in December, the order to repair in December, and this one is January, February. But the Worth Street one was December, November. It seemed to be backwards unless I missed something.
Hold on one second. I'm going to go back to 910 Worth to verify. Yes, sir, it is backwards. I
Okay.
apologize. It should have been November 24th to December 24th.
Very good.
Okay. Good catch. Any questions? All right. Well, I'll definitely make a motion to approve the agenda item for 2025-226 and forward to the full city council.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and second. We'll take a vote now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposes? All right, ayes have it. We'll move it forward. Thank you. And the next item is 2025-227, the local code strategy plan update and introduction to the local codes activity dashboard.
So this graph here is depicting how many cases we've had for May 2025 in reference to public nuisance, zoning violations, and minimum housing violations. For public nuisance, we had a total of 265 cases. 143 of those cases were city-initiated, and 122 were citizen complaints. For zoning, we had a total of 39, with the city initiating 24 of those complaints and citizens initiating 15 of those complaints. For minimum housing, it was a total of 9 complaints, with the city initiating 1 complaint and a citizen having 8 complaints. So the local codes activity dashboard is something new that we are trying to get some more information out about local code enforcement. So what this does is it gives the public the ability to search for specific cases, PV, DV, and HV. PV is public nuisance, DV is zoning violations, and HV is minimum housing. And what this does, it also provides us the ability to navigate the map, viewing pop-ups, and seeing where we are at in the case as far as the task status. And I am going to show you all an example. And this site has not been live yet. We wanted to show it to everyone present to make sure that, you know, what is present makes sense, and if you all would recommend any changes before we go live. So, Councilman Andrew, I know a couple times that you've asked how many minimum housing cases you have in your area.
Right.
This is a great way to be able to look and see, like particularly for the month of May, how many minimum housing cases you have in your area. So what you would do is you would go to record type, click on substandard housing. You would go to open date, which would be May 1st to today. Scroll down and hit Ward District. Ward 5. So you can see for the month of May, you've had 2 minimum housing cases in your ward.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was playing with it last night, and then it was pretty good.
Awesome.
So,
And something I will say, so this little, it's a little hard to see, but this little green dot here, you can actually click on this, and it tells you the address, the case topic, and typically case topics can be a couple things like order to repair demo, or a 48-hour order to repair. You have the record ID here, the case description, which describes what is going on with the property and why we were called. You have the open date and the close date. We have the case manager, the owner, the party cited, and in this instance, this case was actually closed, which you will be able to see down here in the corrected status. So we can see that we went out there, we made our inspection, and the owner actually repaired the violations that were present on the property.
yep, familiar with that one.
Awesome.
And this can be done with public nuisance as well, for example. You can do multiple. You can do public nuisance, substandard housing, and zoning. And then you can see here in the chart to the right, and 28 cases in that ward for public nuisance, substandard housing, and zoning. And the public nuisance is red, the zoning is blue, and the minimum housing is green. And once again, you know, we can hover over and see the address, the record ID, property owner, and case manager, and when it was open, when it was closed, and where it's sitting at as far as the task status. Does anyone have any questions before I click off?
Councilman Johnson here, I love this. Yes. Definitely because you can divide it up by wards.
Absolutely. That was one of the most important things we wanted
Yes.
in this activity dashboard, because we do get a lot of questions and want to see where we're at.
Yes.
Is there a way to filter, sorry, this is Councilman Burcook. Is there a way to filter it based on the owner?
So at this point in time, there is not. Nina and I actually discussed there is something called building blocks. And with building blocks, we'll actually be able to do a deeper dive and search specifically by owner, or if it's a rental property / property owner occupied. But we're going to get together and work on that and hopefully do a little bit of a deeper dive from there.
Okay.
Any other questions? No, I love it. It's great. So we don't have to take a vote or anything on that? All right, so we'll move on to the next thing. 2025-235. It's the 5-year consolidation plan and the 2025 annual action plan. And Ms. Nina is coming.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. This is information based, it's for our 5-year consolidated plan and for the 1-year annual action plan. It will cover 2025 through 2029, and the annual action plan will be for the 2025-2026 program year. And we did receive our annual allocations. They were issued or released May the 13th. And for the CDBG funds, we'll receive $841,529. And for the home program, $424,074. So just kind of wanted to go through the process. I know that this is nothing, I don't think it's anything new. We've kind of gone through this at various points throughout the year. But just to give a quick overview of the department, of course, we have a staff of 19 with the 4 divisions. We sort of pulled compliance out when we created the compliance officer position, and they're actually under my direct supervision as opposed to under the administration. And the goal, of course, for community development is to strengthen neighborhoods by providing decent, safe, and affordable housing for low to moderate income families, promoting community and economic development opportunities, assisting with the provision of services for homeless and other vulnerable populations, and strategic code enforcement. And with High Point being a HUD entitlement community, that basically means that we receive an allocation each year based on a formula. It's a formula allocation. And some of the eligible activities do include acquisition of real property, rehabilitation of residential properties, public improvements, economic development, and job retention activities. And each one of the activities under the CDBG program have to meet what's called a national objective. And there are 3 to benefit low and moderate income persons, prevention or elimination of slums or blight, or address a community development need having a particular urgency. And typically those are the types of things that have to do with natural disasters. That's the only time that we've really seen that particular national objective used. And then for the home program, we are a participating jurisdiction again, so we receive an annual allocation. And the intent of the home program is to provide decent, affordable housing to lower income households, expand the capacity of nonprofit housing providers, strengthen the ability of state and local governments to provide housing, and to leverage private sector participation. The consolidated plan is, it can be done anywhere between 3 and 5 years. Here in High Point, we chose to do a 5-year plan. There are some jurisdictions that do a 3-year plan, but because of the amount of time and resources that kind of go into developing that 5-year plan, it's a little bit more, I think, cost-effective as well when it comes to just doing it every 5 years. And what that basically allows us to do is to assess our affordable housing and community development needs, look at our market conditions, and use data to basically determine where our resources need to be placed and to make those investment decisions. And the annual action plan, of course, is basically just the strategic plan that outlines how we will implement programs and use funds based on the priorities and goals that we have set in our 5-year plan. And so for funding, this is overall for 2025-26. As I mentioned, the $841,529 in CDBG is an increase this year of about $41,000 for us in that program. And then home, the $424,000 is about a $5,000 decrease for home funds. And program income, that is basically from the repayment of previous loans, whether it be for housing rehabilitation, down payment assistance, anything that we have done to generate program income, like the multifamily housing projects, they're paying those funds back as well. And from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency for the urgent repair program, we have been awarded $165,000. And for the construction training program, we will have $140,000. $70,000 of that will come from housing finance, and then we provide $70,000 for the actual classes. The money from housing finance is for the homeowner repair projects that the students actually undertake. And then from the IRS, for the VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, $14,500. And then the general fund, $2,181,283, which was based off of the budget that was presented and approved. In working with our consultants, we are using Urban Design Ventures. They are out of Pennsylvania, and they actually prepared our current plan, our 2020 to 2024 plan. And so they're very familiar with High Point, and so it's good to work with them again. But these are the draft priorities that they have presented up to this point, looking at housing and just the steady growth in our population, how housing prices have risen as the demand for housing has increased, and that has affected both the sales price as well as the monthly rent for apartments and, just the supply of housing. Looking at the homeless priority, again, one of the things that they sort of concentrated on here is just the location, because we are, off of major highways, and it's very easy, and we become, I think, just the triad in general, fairly an easy target for transitional migration, basically. And so a lot of people, there's just an influx of people that come to this area. And then the special needs priority has to do with the increase in our the elderly population, as well as persons with physical disabilities, developmental delays, et cetera. And so we do have an increase in that population. And one of the things that was also brought up, as you all know, we're working on the housing study, and that is something that those consultants have seen as well, is that we really do need to look at housing and other options for those special needs populations. And community development priorities have to do a lot with infrastructure, could be public facilities, streets, bridges, public safety. There are a lot of things under community development that can be done, but one of the things that I do want us to focus on is really determining what is, I would say, the highest priority. Because we have minimal resources. If we were a jurisdiction that was receiving millions and millions of dollars and we could address everything, that would be wonderful. But we just can't with the amount of funding that we receive. So we do have that particular priority, and then also the economic development priority, which basically just the change in our industry here in High Point. And so looking at job creation and job retention. But what I will probably, I'll say most likely, will recommend, unless there are comments, I would say, against this, is recommend basically that we concentrate on housing, homeless, and the special needs priorities. We just don't have the resources really for the community development needs when we talk about public facilities, whether it be streets, sidewalks, any of those types of things, or really economic development when we talk about trying to recruit industry or anything like that. We have other departments within the city that we work very well with. Now, if we don't include these things, I would say, in our consolidated plan, that doesn't mean that if somewhere down the road there was a project that we wanted to do, let's just say, we were blessed and received more money, additional funds, and saw that we could do another project, we could go back and amend the plan and add that. But it's just that when I look at what we see as our highest needs at the moment, it's really around the housing, homelessness, and those special needs populations. And like I say, it's not to say that we don't need infrastructure. I just don't know that that's something that we can address through community development. And as far as the schedule, we had our first public meeting May the 20th at the Parks and Recreation Building, and then we will have another public meeting on June the 26th. And that is also the date of our Citizens Advisory Council meeting. So we're going to use that opportunity to also have another public meeting because, of course, those meetings are open to the public anyway. So we want to maybe get some folks out and get some more input from the citizens because citizen participation is a big part of this process. And then once the draft plan is developed, we will make it available for a 30-day public review and comment period, and we're looking for that to start June the 30th. And then once that period ends around the end of July 29th or so, we will be bringing the plan to you all for a public hearing, and then submission approval. We'll be requesting submission approval at that time. And looking at the scheduling, as long as there are no, adversarial comments or anything like that, we will ask for approval once the public hearing closes. If we were to receive public comments that might affect the outcome, or if we look to see that we need to revise the plan in any way based on public comments, then we would do that, and then we would have to bring it back. Okay. And so that wraps up the presentation. Do you have any questions of me?
Well, I think I answered my question. The fifth slide, PJ is a participating jurisdiction, correct?
We didn't spell it correctly.
Well, no, I mean, it's just, there was PJ down the bottom, but participating jurisdictions on the top, so never mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. The acronyms,
Yeah.
but yeah, PJ is a participating jurisdiction, correct?
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
I guess I have one. This is maybe a little bit more in depth, so I don't know if you have an answer. It's fine if you don't today, but you're the expert. So if we prioritize housing the homeless, how do we fight the NIMBY mentality in our city to make sure that, and I would like to know how I can better advocate to be a city that welcomes these types of priorities and makes housing the unhoused possible and allows projects to move forward, because they're never going to get less expensive, and our area is only growing in popularity. So do you have anything that you would say to the public about our responsibility or our opportunity in these priorities?
The primary thing that I would say is that education is key. There are a lot of misunderstandings and myths about affordable housing decreasing property values and increasing crime and things like that, but those are simply myths. There's never been any data to suggest that. So education is key. I think the other thing is that it's important for everyone to understand that it's not just a they-them problem. It's a us-we problem, and we all, all citizens of High Point really have to understand that we all have to kind of, take part in the solution. And again, that is really going to be an educational type of, solution or something that we could actually come up with. When we talk about when we're looking at the housing study, out of the recommendations, that is one of the things, is just the educational component of it, and there are some recommendations that will be coming forth from that we'll be able to look at ways that we can bring information and help educate, just the citizens as a whole when it comes to affordable housing and affordable housing development. And I know that I heard this probably last year, sometime on a webinar, and I never really thought about it that way, but in talking about NIMBY, a lot of times people are complaining about they don't want the affordable housing in their backyard, but if you don't buy into affordable housing, before you know it, you're going to have a homeless camp across the street in your front yard. And so you have to kind of, weigh your options. Is it better to have decent, safe, affordable housing versus homeless encampments, popping up in all of our communities? So again, like I said, I think it just has to really be buy-in from everyone.
And there's been a lot of discussion recently about if we would just let the builders build what they want to build, where they want to build, how they want to build it, the stock would go up and it would solve all of our problems. It would cure affordability and it would provide enough spaces. Personally, I don't buy into that mentality because I think that there are a lot of systemic problems that have prevented certain communities from having healthy outcomes, having walkability, having housing that is safe and healthy for them. But I didn't know if there was anything that you would want to say about, not to say we shouldn't talk to builders or be welcoming to developments, but about why our ability to solve our own problems in High Point might be important, and being able to evaluate our own methodologies and planning and zoning and code enforcement and customer service, if you had any thoughts about that.
Well, I think we pretty much have laid out the map and laid out the plan in the 2045 comprehensive plan as to what we want to see and how we want our city to grow. So I think that that's where we need to start. In talking with developers, I don't believe there should just be, carte blanche for them to do whatever they want. I do think that things need to be done in order. And as we're looking at the development ordinance and updating the ordinance, I do believe that that is very important when it comes to just the processes and procedures and how we work with our builders and developers, whether it means streamlining processes or, making things a little more simplified so that it's a little bit easier. But, and also, I think it's going to be important too for us to possibly offer incentives, some of those types of things. And again, these will be recommendations that will come from the housing study.
Thank you.
Great.
I have a question to ask Councilwoman McKeever. Some people had asked me about affordable housing, and they had went on our website, and they said they had to take a class.
I'm sorry, it said what?
Said they had to take a class.
Yes.
Okay, so is it one day? I think I talked.
Yes, our class is on the third Saturday of each month. I believe it's the third. It's the first or the third. We partner with Greensboro, so I apologize. And it's the first Saturday and the third Saturday of the month, and it is virtual. The classes are still virtual. That is a homebuyer education class that's done through Housing Consultants Group, and I can certainly get you additional information about that. It's free. The class doesn't cost them anything, and one of the things that they noticed during the pandemic, of course, is that participation was much better when it was done virtually versus in person. That way people don't have to worry about childcare or anything like that on a Saturday. So so participation has still continued to be good for those classes. It's 8 to 5 on the first Saturday and the third Saturday, and we can get that information for you.
Okay. Do we assist in a way with them getting financed to be able to afford to get affordable housing, or do they get it on their own?
Okay, we have a list of what we call preferred lenders, and that basically means that they have gone through a training as to how to access our programs. So we don't recommend or suggest any specific lender. We give them a list, and that is up to them who they choose. But just through the training, we do try to make sure that they choose a lender that maybe they already have a banking relationship with. Somebody that's reputable. And we don't see too much predatory. We don't really see predatory lending anymore. So I think we don't have to worry about that as much. But just to make sure that they are going with, a lender that is pretty solid. And they also learn about all of our down payment assistance programs and the things that we offer through that class that they take on that Saturday. So we don't steer them to any particular place, but we'll provide them any resources that they need to connect to a lender.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Johnson here. So I'll say that I believe you hit it on the nail in regards to the housing, the homelessness, and the special needs. And I do have one question, but I believe it's for Kaylee. Did I say it right this time? All right, Kaylee, our interim code enforcement manager. Did the public nuisance cases go up?
So it has went up since the last time I did the strategic update, and that's because grass cases are up. A lot more people are outside, grass is growing like crazy, and that's why they've gone up.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
If nothing else? Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a question real quick that follows up with Amanda? Will you allow me to or not? Am I allowed to?
She'll have-
Up to the chair.
okay. Yes, ma'am, go ahead, ask the question.
It kind of piggybacks what Amanda said. I was only going to listen, but I'm just curious. But just come to the mic.
You may answer, Councilwoman Monica. Thank you.
If you could give your name and
You know how we do it. And name your address, please.
Hello, my name's Monica Peters. My address is 1410 Trafalgar Drive. No, sorry. Thank you for, I missed this committee. I loved community housing, but anyway, but I loved your question, Amanda. And then I'm just curious, Michael Holmes, Councilmember Holmes and I recently went to Greenville for City Vision, and I went to a Durham's thing, and they have implemented, it's called SCAD, Simplifying Code for Affordable Development. And I know that we don't want to allow developers to do whatever they want, but I also am just curious if we're kind of implementing anything here to just look at like where we might balance like maybe some of those coding issues. Does that kind of follow up with your question?
Yeah, I think that's the balance that needs to be found. And I know similarly, I was at the COC conference with a lot of our folks from the county recently, and they were somewhat promoting the builder's bill that's taking away a lot of local control. And I was responding, I understand what they're saying, but I was responding, however, if the builders don't believe in putting sidewalks and trees in front of affordable houses, then we perpetuate some of the problems that came out in things like our racial equity scorecard and other places where we don't have the same oxygen production and we don't have the same clean water that you might have in areas that have trees and yards, and we don't have the safety and walkability that we have in neighborhoods that have sidewalks and access to transportation and things like that. And so they were kind of like, oh, they didn't realize that's what the builders are trying to navigate around, is some of our complete streets requirements and things that are put in place to help protect the neighborhoods that previously didn't have that protection historically. So I guess that's where I look to Nina's wisdom, and she is seen. I hope everybody knows that Nina is very well respected and regarded as an expert on these
Thank
things.
you.
Everywhere I go, she's on it. And so that's why I wanted to hear her perspective on how we balance being able to build what we need to build to meet the need, but also to build for the people who live here now and not build for the market that can move here and buy 2 houses for what they sell a house for in a different state. And so I know we can't legally, prevent someone from buying something, but I don't want to just perpetuate and do what everybody else has done because it increased the stock if it doesn't necessarily address the issues that we have in High Point. So yes, is trying to find where is that middle ground.
And in the housing study too, as part of the recommendations, there are some recommendations that have to do with zoning and density, and there are members of the planning staff that are on that steering committee, and so they've seen these things, the recommendations, and we will be having discussions with them as far as finalizing once we get the draft and start reviewing that. Again, the development ordinance update is important as well. But I think one of the things that's key when we talk about the affordability of the construction, what the builders and contractors need really is cheap capital. you know, and so that is very important. And the housing fund, the Housing Impact Fund that has been established is one way of helping them access capital where they have some more favorable terms. Subsidy is very important when it comes to just maintaining the affordability for these projects. We know that everything's gone up, supplies, materials, and when we talk about the extras like the trees and the sidewalks and all of that, it does cost money. At the end of the day, everything costs money. So if we decide that these are the things that we definitely want to require our builders to undertake, then I think we do need to hopefully be prepared to provide incentives, subsidy, concessions, you know, in some way to accommodate that.
I think I would also like to see from the builders innovation, because I don't see 3D houses, 3D printing happening in our community here, and that is affordable. I think there are technologies that are existing that we're just not seeing in our area yet. And so before giving all of those concessions, I would like to see some of those innovators starting to pop up and take advantage of, you know, the fact that there's not an existing market outside of just regular steel frame or stick frame, you know, houses. And so that's another area of interest and for probably a conversation for another day, so I won't belabor it. But there's not always one or the other. I think that there are a lot of things in between.
At the Regional Housing Summit that was in Winston-Salem earlier in the year, that is one of the things that came up, was just being innovative. And I know one of my comments was that we can't continue to do the same thing that we've always done and expect different outcomes. We just can't do that. And so we do need to look to our architects, our builders, our, you know, folks that you know, can be a little bit more innovative, and they have the skills and the know-how for that. A lot of times, of course, we're afraid of what we don't know, and it's never been done here, or that's done in California, but it won't work here. So it just takes more education, more, you know, just more research. And the Housing Summit, we're looking at the next Regional Housing Summit being here in High Point. And that is one of the things that when we begin planning that I think one of the sessions should be on just looking at different models and looking at innovation and things that are working in other areas. But it's hard getting the buy-in, though. Again, it's just, it can be difficult to get buy-in sometimes.
And that's still considered affordable housing.
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
Yeah, there are 3D homes that are 3D printed homes that can be less than 100,000, and they
Right.
look beautiful. They don't look weird or, you know.
Yeah, I think the thing that people have to understand is that a lot of times when you're looking at building plans and things like that, facades can be made to fit in and blend in, even if you're using different products, different construction products.
Great. Any other comment? All right. Good deal.
Thank you.
Any announcements before we dismiss? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.